Asterisk, what did Jungkook actually say to Jimin that made both of them cry in silence? Why does that one sentence keep millions of soldiers from sleeping through the night? Check out the truth that has only been circulating behind the scenes. Don't forget to leave comments, like, and subscribe to keep updated with the most touching news and reveal the other side of idols that you never expected. Asterisk, have you ever imagined what two friends are really talking about behind the sparkling spotlight of the stage? When the lights go out, the cheers of the audience dim, and only silence and frankness remain? What is revealed in the conversation of two people who have spent more than a decade of their lives together, going through ups and downs under the pressure of the brutal world of entertainment? Is it possible that one sentence, yes, just one sentence, can break down the wall of obstinacy and make millions of hearts simultaneously break down? This story is not about the concert schedule. It's not about musical achievement. It's about two human beings named Jungkook and Park Jimin. Two names that have become symbols of strength, hard work, and true friendship for BTS fans around the world. Today, however, we're going to discuss something deeper, more fragile, and more honest than anything ever performed on stage. The event took place not in the middle of a concert, nor in a live broadcast, but behind the scenes, as the two finished one of the last recording sessions for BTS's highly emotional project. The camera wasn't on at the time, but the studio's microphone was still recording, and somehow, that part of their private chat leaked into some insider's ear, and that's where it all started to unfold. Imagine this, a silent studio. The lights are just dim. Jimin sat on the edge of the sofa with a blank look, looking at the floor. Jungkook, who is usually full of energy, just stood beside her, like he was holding something that had been held for too long. Then, suddenly, in an almost quivering voice, Jimin asked quietly, "We've lost ourselves, haven't we?" And that's when Jungkook responded with what was later touted as a heart-wrenching sentence. Before we unravel that sentence, and you may need to prepare yourself before reading it, let's first understand the emotional background that makes this conversation happen. In the past 5 years, the pressure on BTS has not only increased, but has approached the extreme point. Contracts, global expectations, criticism, internal fandom splits, to breakup rumors. All of that builds up into a load that even the camera can't catch. Jungkook, as the youngest member, often comes across as the most resilient. But from this chat it is revealed that he harbors more wounds than anyone could ever imagine. Jimin, who is known for his gentleness, harbors deep fears about losing emotional connections with the members, especially with Jungkook, whom he considers his younger brother. And finally, when that moment of silence came, Jungkook only said one sentence. One sentence that made Jimin look down, shed tears silently, and one that made industry insiders say, "That's the most honest sentence I've ever heard from an idol." That sentence is asterisk. If one day I forget what it feels like to be Jungkook because everything is too much, please remember who I am to you. This sentence, which sounds simple to many, turns out to hold an unusually deep meaning. It is not just a form of exhaustion, but a request for help from someone who has almost lost his identity due to the burden of fame. And even more heartwarming, Jimin's response was not spoken in words, but with a long hug, a hug that was not recorded on camera, but was told with tears by one of the staff who witnessed the moment firsthand. The ARMY, which first learned of the leak through an audio engineer's private Twitter account, reacted immediately. Within 24 hours, the hashtags #RememberHorJK and #JiminWeLoveYou were trending globally. Thousands of love messages, fan-made videos, and even artwork flooded the internet, illustrating how deep the fans' love and support for these two best friends is. But the story is not finished. A few days after the leak went viral, Jungkook suddenly uploaded a dark Insta story, just a black background with a single white heart emoji. No words. But for those who knew what was going on, it was enough to make thousands of comments flood his account in a matter of minutes. Then another surprise happened. Jimin posted a childhood photo of the two, never seen in public before, with the caption, "You will always be the Jungkook I know, even if you forget." The photo shows two teenagers with big smiles and eyes full of hope, as if they do not yet know how hard the world will treat them in the future. The ARMY is crying, not only because the photo is touching, but because it is a real form of friendship that nothing can replace. The question now is, why is this moment so important? Because for the first time, the public was presented with the most human side of two global megastars. They are no longer just a symbol of K-pop success, but a reminder that behind the sparkling lights, they are just two young people who want to keep reminding each other who they really are. Emotions were further heightened when a few days later, in a long-scheduled radio interview, the host inadvertently touched on mental stress and how BTS members support each other. Jungkook, who was usually calm, suddenly fell silent for a long time. Then, in a hoarse voice, he said, "Sometimes, one person can be the mirror of our lives. Without him, we might not know ourselves. I'm thankful I have that guy." Instantly, the atmosphere of the studio turned silent. Does that mean there's a chance BTS will break up? Did Jungkook indirectly hint that he was at the point of extreme mental exhaustion? Did Jimin experience the same thing? Although HYB's management has not yet issued an official statement regarding the leaked chat, a number of staff close to the group confirmed that the atmosphere behind the scenes has been very emotional in recent months, especially after the announcement of the draft and the postponement of several major BTS projects. In fact, some have called this the most fragile period in the group's history. But amid all this tension, one thing becomes abundantly clear. The relationship between Jungkook and Jimin is not a gimmick, not a fan service, not the scenario. It is something authentic, full of hurt and love, formed from years of unbreakable togetherness. And it is precisely from there that the power of this story is born, that we are not witnessing the end. We are witnessing how two human beings choose to keep their grip on each other in the midst of a storm. How one sentence can be an anchor, can save a soul that is about to drown. How, in a world full of noise, the simplest words actually become the most meaningful. What is the future of BTS? What is the role of the ARMY in maintaining the mental health of their idols? Is the Korean entertainment industry ready to be more transparent about this issue? The questions still hang. But one thing's for sure. That night, in a space where there were only the two of them, Jimin and Jungkook wrote a chapter in K-pop history that will never be forgotten. If you feel touched or have lost your identity like Jungkook, write about your experience in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this news to let more people know that behind the brightest spotlight, there is often the darkest shadow. But as long as we have someone who will remind us who we really are, we will never truly be lost. However, as a wave of emotion swept through the fans, inevitable ripples of controversy arose. The leak of private chats between Jungkook and Jimin not only opened the veil of intimacy between the two friends, but also sparked wild speculation that spread like wildfire in a dry field. Some people began to question, is this just an honest moment of two friends strengthening each other? Or is there a hidden conflict that has been closely hidden by the agency? Not a few suspect that Jungkook's sentence is not just a form of fatigue, but a signal of a desire to move away from his identity as an idol. The phrase, "if I forget how it feels to be Jungkook," is not just a form of shock. It can be read as a form of rejection of the reality that he has been living. Does this mean Jungkook is considering stepping down? Does the pressure of the agency, the demands of the global brand, and the layered expectations of the ARMY make him want to escape from all those identities? Meanwhile, the reaction from the internal fandom began to heat up. There is an emerging split of opinion between those who see this as a moment of reinforcement and those who accuse the agency of exploiting the members' emotional softness for the sake of image and capitalization. Several large fanbase accounts even unfollowed each other on Twitter, voicing sharp differences in views. Some insisted that Jungkook and Jimin's privacy had been violated, while others said it was an important moment to encourage openness about idols' mental health. Furthermore, voices from former BTS staff and coaches began to appear anonymously. In a long thread uploaded by a credible insider account, it was mentioned that the pressure behind the scenes was intense, especially on Jungkook, due to his dual role as the main visual, the main vocalist, and also the trendsetter of the new generation. One tweet read, "JK never really had time to be himself. All scheduled. Even his own time does not belong to him." The sentence was immediately flooded with thousands of replies, mostly full of emotion and anger. Ironically, HYBE remained silent. No clarification, no response. This silence only adds suspiciousness. Did the agency choose silence because it knew the truth was too painful to hear? Or are they devising a new narrative to save the group's public image before it's too late? Within days of the incident going viral, speculation began to spill over into a much deeper issue: the members' internal conflicts. Some K-pop watchers brought up old moments in BTS's documentation and variety shows, trying to reread interactions between Jungkook and other members. Some have begun to discuss moments when Jungkook appears withdrawn, or his blank stare behind the camera that used to be considered ordinary fatigue is now interpreted as a form of severe burnout. Then comes a much more provocative topic. Is it true that there is invisible pressure on the part of the label to make Jungkook and Jimin maintain the image of a bromance that is sold to the public, even when both are actually under heavy psychological pressure? Have those seemingly perfect relationships been so rigorously formed and curated to satisfy the international market? One of the viral posts even said, "Their relationship is too perfect for real." Maybe it's like the K-pop version of The Truman Show. They're locked into a narrative they can't choose for themselves. This is a serious accusation, and at the same time sad. Is the closeness we love so far just part of a marketing strategy? Jimin himself, who is usually known for being very expressive, appeared much more reserved in his public appearances after this incident. In a live broadcast a few days later, he was seen repeatedly looking down and biting his lips before answering questions from fans. As one fan wrote, "You and Jungkook are fine, right?" In the comments, Jimin just smiled slightly and said, "We're always there for each other, but sometimes we're human too." That one sentence, "but sometimes we're human too," went viral in a matter of minutes. Now, speculation is not only about burnout or emotional exploitation, but also about the authenticity of identity. Do BTS members still have control over their own lives? Or are they just megacorporation puppets who are bound by contracts and are required to smile despite a broken heart? The most surprising thing came when a former Big Hit trainee posted a long blog implying that the closeness of the members was indeed monitored and sometimes even directed to form a chemistry that was sold as a fan service. He wrote, "You can't really tell which is real and which is acting. Sometimes they even forget themselves." Although this claim cannot be verified, the impact is enormous. Thousands of fans began to re-question the entire narrative that they had believed to be sincere love and true friendship. And this brings us to the most piercing question of all. If Jungkook and Jimin really hurt, then who have we been supporting all this time? Are they, or are their versions created to be admired? What good is the love of millions of fans if in the end they cannot be themselves? While fandom is still divided, one consistent voice continues to be heard, that whatever the truth, idols. Mental health should be a priority. Some South Korean mental health advocacy organizations are starting to raise their voices, pushing for regulatory changes to reduce idols' working hours and improve their access to therapy and counseling. But the question is, will this voice be strong enough to fight an already entrenched industry with a strict system and total commercialization? Therein lies the deepest irony. Two people who have brought hope and inspiration to millions of people around the world are harboring wounds they can't even express freely. Jungkook, who is known for his golden voice and cheerful laughter, apparently once felt like he was losing himself. Jimin, who always smiles softly, apparently harbors fears about relationships that slowly feel empty due to outside pressure. This is not just a story about two BTS members. This is a story about how the global entertainment industry sometimes demands too much from young people who just want to create. It's a tacit criticism of a system that promises dreams but wraps them in restrictions and manipulation. And this is a call for fans around the world to start asking the most important thing. Does our love really protect them? Or do we just love the version that is comfortable to admire? ARMY, it's time for more than just liking and yelling at concerts. Now it's time to talk. Comment on how you really feel after reading all this. Share your views. Arouse discussion. Because one comment, one vote, can be the beginning of the change needed by those we love. This truth may be uncomfortable, but it is in discomfort that we begin to really care. And maybe, someday, when the stage lights are completely out and the audience's voices are gone, Jungkook and Jimin can sit back, without hidden microphones, without cameras, without demands, and say, finally, We are ourselves. Now, when euphoria turns into questioning silence, the public is faced with a reality far from glamorous. And right in the middle of this storm, a very disturbing question arises. Are Jungkook and Jimin victims of the system, or are they symbols consciously used by the industry to blur the line between reality and illusion? The controversy began to boil over when some observers of Asian pop culture linked Jungkook's gut-wrenching moment to a covert marketing strategy known as emotional branding. It is an approach in which an idol's personal emotions are systematically exploited to establish emotional connections with fans, creating fanatical loyalties that are hard to break. Not a few accused that the moment, however touching, has been used as a trading tool. They began to ask, why did the leak become so widespread? Why didn't the agency immediately follow up with clarification or legal action? Or is the leak not an accident, but the result of a very measured plan? This suspicion is reinforced by the fact that after the viral incident, sales of exclusive merchandise on the theme of friendship, jk, and pjm jumped sharply. Clothes, photo cards, and accessories with the words, "Remember who you are," ran out instantly in a matter of hours. HYB did not issue a statement, but nevertheless opened the second batch restock. The hardline fans welcomed him as a form of support, but for others, it's an exploitation of a moment that should be personal. They refused to buy anything, calling it a commodification of wounds. Then comes an old issue that has been silenced, allegations that K-pop idols are forced to maintain heteronormative images despite their personal realities to the contrary. Jungkook and Jimin, who have shown greater physical and emotional closeness than their group mates, have often been the object of international fanbase conspiracy theories about their sexual orientation. Although always denied by the label, the fact that every moment of their closeness actually continues to be promoted as fan service raises a big question mark. Who is actually taking advantage of whom? In one of the largest online discussion forums in Korea, an anonymous post claiming to be a former BTS variety show production staff appeared. He claims to have witnessed firsthand how scenes of closeness between members, especially between Jimin and Jungkook, were asked to be repeated to be more intimate in order to arouse the emotions of overseas fans. He wrote, "We were asked to choose moments that could make fans cry. Even their hugs are brief." Although it cannot be fully proven, this post received more than 80,000 comments in one night. Slowly but surely, the narrative that the members' personal relationships were being controlled for profit began to spread to the mainstream public. The media began to speculate. The Entertainment Industry Supervisory Agency began to be demanded to investigate the transparency of the work behind the scenes of major idol groups. The discourse has shifted from mere fanfare to issues of workers' rights, privacy, and even structural violence in South Korea's entertainment world. Meanwhile, international fans mainly from Europe and Latin America accuse the K-pop industry of being hypocritical. On the one hand, they sell a narrative of deep friendship to borderline romance between male members, but on the other hand, they strictly limit gender and sexual identity. Jimin and Jungkook, whether they realize it or not, have become the face of a larger cultural tension between aggressive marketing and the realities of life that they may never have fully chosen. Not a few activists began to question, can BTS still be considered a pioneer of freedom and diversity if behind the scenes, they are also bound in the same